So, hi everybody. Good evening to you from Germany. I hope you're doing well today and having a good Friday. This evening, we are back with our Opportunity Pulse live podcast from Germany, and where we talk about key areas when it comes to the opportunities available to Africans and other migrants living in Germany. Today, we're going to be talking about a key topic, the fact that Africans can do more in Germany. We will touch on why we believe Africans can do more, what are the current limitations that we see and we face, and what are also the opportunities that we see around here. But before I proceed, I would let my business partner and co-host Steven to briefly introduce himself, say a few words, and then we get into the key point for today's conversation. Steven.
Thank you so much, Mike, for this wonderful introduction of this topic. My name is Stephen, or Stephen Boite, and I'm so happy again to be here to discuss this very pertinent discussion or topic about why Africans can do more in Germany beyond survival. How can we thrive? Yeah, so thank you so much, Mike, and I'm looking forward for this discussion.
Great. So, across Germany, if you look closely, you see the things that Africans are doing. But sometimes it feels like we don't speak enough about what we do. And very importantly, we do not pay a lot of attention to the strength which we already carry. So, for the sake of today's conversation, there are five key points which we're going to touch on. The first one is, what are those things that limit us? What are the limitations that we see? We will touch on those limitations. We will also dive into the opportunities that we see, very specifically when it comes to employment or the career sector, what is happening there. And then we will also touch on different segments, business, networking, and partnerships, how we can actually use these things or these different areas to further grow, essentially to shift from the survival mode to thriving, and definitely really understanding the strength that we come with as Africans living here in Europe. And then
True.
investment and also the economic power. And very importantly, something which is lacking very much within the community that we see is promotion and influence and how we leverage on social opportunities that are out there. But first and foremost, I would like to, maybe hear from Stevie. When we say Africans can do more, what comes to mind for you, Stevie? When we say Africans can do more and changing from that survivor mindset to a more thriving mindset, what comes to
Mm.
mind for you and what have you seen so far?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. For starters, I think the preamble to this is that there is a growing number of Africans or people of African descent who are making Germany as their home or a second home, um, coming to Germany for different reasons, whether it is a study, family reunion, academic, research, vocational, and so on. So across Germany, you see there is a growing number of people from Africa, right?
Yep.
And these people, of course, some are thriving. A big number of them are still surviving or they are struggling, right?
Yep.
And I think me and you, when we were discussing this topic, the first thing was, before we discuss how we can thrive, I think it's
Yep.
better for us to understand why are we not thriving or why are we struggling and which areas are we struggling in. And that you've just mentioned briefly, those things that are limiting us, first of all, is the survival mentality or the survival mindset. As you all know, there is, I think, this famous Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that all human beings have a certain level of requirements or needs that they need to meet before they reach that level of self-actualization, right? So someone who is thinking about how to pay their rent, how to go about their transportation cost or insurance, it's very hard to tell them how to start a business or how to go for a networking meeting where they're going to be meeting potential business partners. So
Yep.
because their current needs are, how do I feed myself? How
Mhm.
do I make sure that at the end of the month I pay my rental bill? So this is the exact mentality that sometimes stops us from that growth mindset or the growth perspective. And then
Yeah.
the second limitation, I think, where we can do more is overcoming or lack of information. It's not like the lack of access to information, but the zeal, the curiosity to seek and find information of what actually makes it possible for Germans to thrive in their system. That information gap is, I think, one of the biggest challenges that is stopping us or hindering us to be able to achieve more and stopping us from thriving, instead limiting us to thriving. And the third limitation, I would say, is the underutilized skills. So you and I were discussing in our last podcast, and you mentioned something that was so disturbing to me. Like, it left my, like, I've been thinking the last 3 weeks about this. You listed the number of languages that you speak coming from Nigeria before you even adapted and you started speaking German fluently. And I was thinking, across my entire my friend circles,
Mhm.
I know people who speak beyond the local languages, or what we call the local language or dialects. They have even 3 or more international languages they speak.
Yeah.
But these are people that are struggling to find their first job, or maybe to get a promotion, or to find
Mhm.
a better professional job. And you find
Mhm.
they're struggling from one job to the other. Most of these jobs are 1 year or 2 years contracts
Yeah.
without any prospects of maybe even taking leadership roles in those jobs. And I was looking
Mhm.
at the resources they bring, and I'm like, something must be wrong in the way we sell, the way we promote the skills that we come with.
Yeah.
Um, if I was you, like, thinking of the languages that you come with, how many companies, service providers that we do have here that are looking for a Nigerian or maybe West African community in the area of cultural marketing, trying to sell a product or a service? And these people
Mhm.
are very key. But how many times when I'm promoting my skills that I talk about even those languages, that I can speak Hausa, that I can speak Igbo, that I can speak Twi, I can speak Luganda, I can speak Swahili. These are languages that have values, because, or not values, but value, because there are some people who speak these languages and they consume these services or products.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
we do see these as nothing, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then the cultural skills, the soft skills that we come with, the survival mentality, the power to improvise, finding solutions amidst chaos or limited resources and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Quite important and relevant to the environment. The resilience that we do have. I know people who are working in the health sector, and they tell you the work that they're doing, how the people around them are so marveled at how they cope up with all the stress, but still
Yeah.
remain smiling and happier throughout all
Yeah.
this, while their colleagues are getting burnout. So these are
Yeah.
skills that we come
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
but we rarely leverage them. And then
Mhm.
the limiting aspect, I think, that stops us from achieving or getting more from what we can do here is the fragmented community mindsets that we do come along with. And here, it doesn't matter whether you're from Nigeria, from Uganda, from Kenya. We all have the tribes. You belong to the east, to the central, to the west, to the north. You speak this language or that language. You're francophone, you're anglophone. You belong to this religious, you belong to this to this political ideology or that. So all these fragmentations, somehow we bring it with us, and
Mhm.
it comes here, and then it stops you from meeting Mike. Maybe he's, yes, maybe he's an Igbo, you're from houses, but he's got what you actually need. He can help you to link you to your next job. But somehow, because he comes from this tribe, or I am from Uganda, from the central region, and someone from the western part thinks this person cannot help me because he comes from that, or probably he supports this political party or this political ideology, is
Mhm.
it becomes a hindrance. And this is exactly something that I believe that we need to overcome if we want
Yeah.
to achieve more. I think we'll be exploring more and more of this, Mike, but I think these are the key things. Beyond that, I think you've mentioned, touched on that visibility part.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
not putting ourselves on the line. The whole
Yeah.
essence of life, the whole essence of success is about promotion.
100%. Yeah. Blowing your own trumpet.
Yeah, we do have to promote ourselves. We do have to brand ourselves. We do
Yeah.
have to put ourselves out there. No matter how good you are, no matter how qualified you are, you got to bring those services to talk about what you do. Let people identify you already in the first line. I'm so and so, and this is what I do. And this is
Mhm.
what I do in
Mhm.
my community. I help people in becoming this, or I help people in finding solutions to this. And that's how we get to know people, and that's how we make our next business deal, or how we get our promotion, how we get our job. This is how we
Yeah.
meet potential partners and so on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think this is the background beyond which we need to find solutions. Then we
Mhm.
can discuss how can we do more? How can we do better?
Yeah. So, like, really getting practical here for those people who are watching. The point is, we are thinking, um, I'm thinking about the best way to present this, but what I understand and what I see mostly is
Mm,
we undervalue ourselves, and that's the key theme.
mm,
Even that does not really describe it well enough,
mm,
but I mean, that's maybe a place to start from. It's that undervaluing of ourselves. We already
mm.
had some examples that we touched on briefly yesterday when we're having a chat about this podcast.
Yeah.
Before I continue, I want everyone to know, whoever is watching this from all the different platforms, uh, this podcast is brought to you by Opportunity Pulse in collaboration with Setly. Opportunity Pulse is a nonprofit organization co-owned by Steven and myself. And as the name goes, opportunity. We are
Mm,
Canadian Africans and other migrants living in Germany with opportunities here because we believe that we've left our home, we are living here. This is for some people their first home, for other people their second home, but whatever it is, this is your home, whether you like it or not. And then the fact is, we are here to thrive and not to survive. And we bring a lot of values. So Stephen and I are coming together with the partners that we work with to
mm,
unfold these opportunities here. And very importantly, how can we begin to align ourselves with them? And
mm,
Setting is a platform which we're also building as the digital hub to connect and inform people about migration, how you come in, how you settle down, and how you grow. All the
mm,
points which Stephen mentioned, especially about the whole networking, collaboration, and promotion, we are creating the platform Settling to help with these types of visibility. And very importantly, the orientation and the mindset before you arrive. Because for the majority of the people, the problem actually begins before they come here, what they have in mind, stories that have been. The key difference between Africans who are thriving abroad versus those who are struggling or surviving, in
mm,
most cases, is simply information. And then who are the people that you align yourself with? And that's why
mm,
we're putting together these two wonderful platforms to see that we solve this problem. We want to be part of the solution and not just complaining. And I think that's one strong thing that brings Stephen and I together. We see
mm,
the problems, we identify with them, but we don't spend our time complaining about them because complaining won't change anything. But rather, the idea here is understanding the strength that you come with. I want to touch back on one of the points that you mentioned.
yeah.
If you're watching this, you can scan the QR code which is showing here on the screen, and that will take you straight to Setly, where you can sign up and check out what we're building.
Mm,
Uh, Coming back to the point you made, Stevie,
mm,
how we work and how we're like calm and focused and not really stressed up, whereas other people are like getting burnout. And it's exactly. I remember when I was working back then as a student in Lubeck. When I come and
mm,
I'm vibing because I used to work as a bartender. I
mm,
come vibing. I don't care how many customers are there. I am serving everybody. I'm smiling. The other colleagues, they are stressed up. They are just frowning and stuff. And
mm,
then the chef and my other colleagues, they just keep telling me like, You are always smiling. What's up with you? You're always smiling. And this is a natural strength that I come with, and it's very common with most Africans.
100%.
Within that, during that period as well, I used to work also as a kitchen assistant in a farm that would host people for events and all that.
Yeah.
When people talk and I laugh, my laughter is always different because I
Yeah.
go all in and I laugh.
Yeah.
And one day, one of the guys are like, yes, so lacht man richtig, genau wie man jetzt lacht. You know? Yeah, and he literally was saying that when they laugh, they're laughing and frowning. So I'm not saying this in any way, but I'm just
Yeah.
telling you the natural things that we come with. And this is how we've been shaped already. And when
Can
you
I
come,
just cut you short briefly, Mike?
go on.
You just brought in that whole the kitchen experience.
Yeah.
So one of the jobs I was doing as a student that time, I did a lot of jobs, of course, like most of the students. But one of the jobs that really up to now still stands out. I worked in the kitchen. Also behind the kitchen,
Yeah.
there was a lot of stress. So
Hmm.
somewhere near Alexander Plus there, anyone who knows that place, we used to make burritos. And so in the kitchen I had a friend of mine from Kenya, and we have some guy from Indonesia, another one from Lebanon. So it gets really hot. It gets very heated inside there, and the odors start to come in. And then there is this boss coming in, and they are so stressed. And
Yeah.
of course, their job was just to count the money and then make sure things are going on well. But they were so stressed, and then when they come behind, they were so as they were smiling while delivering the stuff on
Yeah.
time, and happy,
Yeah.
and then they were asking us, "What's the secret? Why are you guys still smiling? Everyone is stressed."
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's a virtue, that's a value, that's a skill. I wouldn't call it a skill. It's something that is innate that we come with.
Yeah.
Um, so if I am writing my statement or purpose or my motivation letter, and if I'm in an interview, I definitely have to leverage on that. Yes, I can work under stressful conditions, and
Yeah.
I will still deliver while smiling. And there are a lot of opportunities that comes with that. Most of the jobs we do have here, they have stress. The
Hmm.
stress industry is $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
Uh, People have stress and burnouts, and the question is, how do we manage to do that? And they still end up smiling, and they still end up being friendly to your colleagues and to your clients, and so on. So, yeah, I just wanted to break briefly to that.
Yeah, and I believe if we make a poll now and ask people about this experience, it's you will hear it from almost every other second person that you meet, with a migration background. And this is
Mm.
what we come with. And that being aside, also we come from a society which is not as structured as this one is. So what that
Yes.
translates to is when you come to a more structured society like this, then that actually should pave way for you to thrive, to excel, because you actually used to a structure which is our society or an environment which is not as structured as this one is.
Mm.
And I also argue with people that hey, Germany offers a really fair system because to a large extent you can at least fight for your right, you know, and
Mm.
in as much as in certain situations you may still experience discrimination, but to a large extent you have a fair system that almost most people, almost everyone has equal chance. And even
Mm.
within the places where there seem not to be chance for you, you at least
Mm.
have the right to fight. You know,
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
time we had the podcast which we were doing regarding how to create the bridge between the elderly Africans and then the younger generations. And we
Mm.
could see also many Germans who are joining us within this project and
Mm.
also pushing our narrative. And again, this is now going to the point of the opportunities that is there sitting and waiting for us. We've had
Mm.
conversation where we talked about how Africans are now represented enough, at the government level, at the Senate level,
Yeah.
and how there are positions and budgets and seats that are actually dedicated to Africans, but they're not taking that seat, they're not taking the position. So again, this is not something that you find in other places, but you
Mm.
find it here. And then the question is, why are we not taking those seats? Why are we not taking those positions? You know,
Mm.
My point being, um, exactly coming back to what you said, because of all these not so important things, it now makes us to lose the bigger picture. And then
mm,
we get so engrossed in things that actually are very trivial.
yeah,
Something as simple as social gatherings, which you mentioned before, just a chilled social gathering. Summer is coming already. And then you ask
yeah,
yourself, how are we spending our time during this summer? What are we doing during this summer? You know,
yeah,
whereas some people are spending their time still while socializing, but also networking, doing meaningful networking, talking about
mm,
valuable projects, things that can actually shape, not just their life, but the life of also unborn generations of Africans here. We
mm,
have the other people on the other side that are just chilling, having party, barbecue, and all stuff,
mm-hmm,
and spending most of the time just complaining, you know? And then
100%.
you ask yourself, at the end of the day, we all have 24 hours.
Yes.
What are we using our 24 hours to do? And that is really
Mm-hmm,
what tells the difference. Many
mm-hmm,
times, I think we've had the experience whereby we organize programs and then we sit and nobody shows up because there was no barbecue and we're not playing Davido or Runner Boy. But
yeah,
then, if you have an event where is Davido or Burna Boy is going to show up, you see all
yeah,
of them in their numbers. But at the
yeah,
end of the day, that event is just for the night.
yeah.
Tomorrow, some people will even have to go to work. Some people have to
And
go do
even
their manager
spending
or
money for
Amazon
them.
or go do whatever. But when we host an event to say, hey, let's gather and talk about the project that would help us solve the problems which you are facing, people don't show up.
Yeah,
So again, I think we can actually do more. I genuinely believe that we can do more. And I
100%.
believe that for every limitations that we think we have, there are two, three, four, five solutions to solving that.
100%. And Mike, you just mentioned, yeah, like that very point that you said to me is sometimes the lack of priority setting. And this is also partly to that problem of the information gaps. Say there is Davido, of course. Everyone would like to go and watch Davido. I would also want to go, but also I would also want to go and listen if there is a workshop or seminar on how to build assets in Germany, or how
Yep,
can diaspora leverage on the German subsidies or programs that are there to help people.
yep,
I would still want to go there
hmm
because I believe there is some value there that I can get that will
hmm
help me, because I'm not just thinking of going for one off event. I'm also thinking about something that is going to help me to build and improve my life.
yep,
And I think that contributes to most of this lack of information gap, because we do
yep,
not seek to value things that help us to build knowledge and
hmm
skills. And if we do it, then we do it. But of course, sometimes it's because of like maybe group influence. Someone once tells me, "Oh, this is happening," but I don't do my background check to say, okay, what is it actually that's going to happen, and how does it fit into my own life? How can I benefit from this? So that means if I go to that event, I ask the right questions, I prepare, I go with
yep,
the right mentality, and so on. Yeah,
hmm
and now that we understand, Mike, the background, the context to why we are not able to do more, I wanted us now to break it down for anyone who is listening or watching us now or later on, looking at the key areas where we can do more,
yep,
particularly the area of employment, right?
yep, yep,
When we are seeking employment or we are employing others,
yep.
there is something about career planning. What can we do, or how can we do more here to strategically plan the way we should be able to plan to be able to do more, achieve, not survive, but thrive?
Yep. I'll tell you something that happened to me because I always like to share my personal story with every point so that people can always relate to it. Again, starting from what you already have. Um, the first step to everything, most things we get in life are free of charge. That's one thing I genuinely believe in. The best things that come to us are free of charge. And the first step is showing up. So now the question now is, what stage are you currently? Right now, what stage are you and what are you seeking? And then where are you spending your time? Because for everything that you're looking for, there are events, that are meant to help you get there. And most of them 100% free of charge.
mm,
Let's assume someone who just came to Germany, someone who is still studying, because this would be the best time for you to begin to prepare and not wait until the end of your studies before you begin to apply for jobs.
yeah.
Most of the Africans that are in Germany, some of them, if not most, they come already with a bachelor's degree, so they're coming for their masters. Many
Mm,
come with work experience from their home countries. We're talking about um, the whole multilingual stuff that you can speak multiple languages, amongst
mm,
other things, stress management, and so on. But
mm,
besides all those, there are also professional experience that people have. Now,
yeah.
how do we package this professional experience? And when we go for or apply for a job, how do we present it?
Mm,
Now, what I have found, because I could talk about so many things, but let me just talk on one or two specific cases that people can actually use right away.
mm,
Now, um, most people tend to do what every other person is doing.
mm,
And if you do what every other person is doing, you get what every other person else is getting. The classical way that people apply for job is they see a job opening, they send a classic application letter and CV, and boom, they get the Leidanish, very nice email that they always get. And most times they don't even take time to read it these days anymore. It's just a whole AI stuff.
mm,
I've said this many times. Why not do things differently?
mm,
And I don't say this because it's easy. I said it because I think that's how you set yourself apart. And I also did it.
mm,
Now, you can set yourself apart by A, genuinely showing that you're interested in that company. And there are multiple ways. We talked about this briefly yesterday. Well,
mm,
first of all, how about if you would call the company and find out exactly who put that job post and double check with them what exactly are the pain points for that position? And why is this valuable? Trust me, by the time you start working for most companies, you find out that they are not as structured as they look externally as they are internally. You go in
true.
and you find out in a lot of cases just chaos and mess. Not to
Yes.
say anything bad for companies, but people are not perfect. Organizations are not perfect. But when you see them externally, you think they are perfect, and then you're already scared. But if you
Mm,
would pick up the phone and call and say, "Hey, I saw this position. I'm genuinely interested in it, but I would like to be sure about what are the pain points. I just want to know if I'm a good fit for you, for your company or not." If
mm,
you can do that, that already sets you apart. I'm not sure how many people who do this.
mm,
There is a language barrier, which if you can speak German, it places you above. But if you can, depending on your field, maybe German might be needed or not. But let's keep that aside.
mm,
Now, the next thing would also be later on you send your application. Probably the person you call will have a chance to read that application. It already sets you apart. Now, let's say you don't get the job. How about if you propose to say, okay, hey, because I really want to work for you guys. How about if I would intern with you guys for 3 months or 6 months unpaid? I don't want to get paid. I just want to work for free. Most people who are not, who do not have a full-time job, although they are applying for jobs, but they still have some hours per day that they can actually work. You could take up an internship with that company or some other company and work for free. During that process, you gain lots of experience, networking, and maybe the company would actually have an opportunity to get to know you more, and that would open doors for you, you know? And then one very important thing again is always align your career growth or career route to what you already have and have done before. This is really helpful. A lot of people, they don't know what they can do if they study a particular course or subject. And here in Germany, you have to understand that, at least from my experience, what most companies value is the kind of personality that you come with. Qualification is great, but at the end of the day, how can you work with other people? And what this translates to is, are you teachable? Are you learnable? Can you actually solve problems on your own? And how flexible are you? And very importantly, what transferable skills do you come with? My point being, you cannot know all these things in one podcast or in just one conversation. And that's why you need to be having conversations like this over and over and over again and associating yourself with people who are also having these conversations every time.
Wow, thank you so much, Mike. You actually gave very practical tips, and I found that quite interesting. Finding out the pain points when a job advertisement is being set out. Like you said, I would say probably my estimate is 90% of the time we look at the job offer from the face value.
Yeah.
Uh, which also creates the kind of fear that we have towards the job, because everything looks so formal. The expectations of the job are so high. We even sometimes look at the job description itself and doubt whether we're capable of delivery.
Yeah.
But if you ask, from what I understand, why is this job so important for you? And what kind of skills do you think I should be bringing to table, or what kind of problems I will be solving with
Yeah.
this? So it gives you already the leverage. Like, even if you were to come in an interview and say, I am that person who you spoke to a day ago, 2 days ago, I think it elevates you from any other applicant on that job.
Of
And,
course.
uh,
Yeah.
and I think you said something very, very important. Again, start from where you are. And the least involved is looking for a volunteership or for an internship or an unpaid, what we call leisure. Because if they are not willing to give you a chance to enter that job based on the maybe the competition, then at least they should be able to give. Most organizations do offer you at least 1 or 2 hours a week where you
Mhm.
can come in and volunteer, whether in the evenings or on the weekends or on your free time, whether
Yeah.
virtually or in person. There should be a possibility for you to display what you have,
Yeah.
the capabilities and the skills that you do have. And I
Yeah.
think those are very practical tips, how we can do more to help us to get into jobs, but not just jobs that we just maybe for the sake of working, but the jobs that we actually enjoy and we want to thrive in. Thank you
Mhm.
so much,
Mhm.
Mike, for that. And I would like again to come back to you, Mike, on that point that you mentioned in the last podcast about leveraging the language
Yeah.
advantages that we do have. Again, still to the point of employment, because I think this is an area where we so much struggling, where most diaspora are either underemployed or they are not employed at all, or they probably surviving in jobs that they are not called to do. Um,
Mhm.
how can we leverage on the language abilities that we have? Because I find this is something quite obvious, but we
Yeah.
should think about it actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. So, what every African should ask themselves first and foremost is, how many languages can I already speak now? I think on the average, most Africans can speak between 2 to 3 languages just by default because of the kind of environment you grow up in. For most African countries, there is the national language, whatever that is for you, and then there's your native language where you come from originally. So that already is like 2 by default for most
Mm,
Africans, if not all. And then on top of that, there are other languages in the country that you come from. So that already makes you a multilingual person. And if you can speak if you can speak one additional language, you can speak another one more or less easily. I think that's biologically proven. And if that's the case, then the question is when you are in Germany, that you become intentional about learning the German language. Because no matter what anybody tells you, that is the door opener to opportunities in this country. It's
mm,
Deutschland and it's Deutsch. There's no two ways about it. So you have to be practical about learning it. And do not just sit and learn on whatever platform, go to whatever classroom, and that's it. No. What's the essence of learning something if you're not going to put it into practice? So you learn online or whatever resource you use, classroom, online, but then you go out there and put it into practice. I give you some examples in my case. Again, around 6 months after I came to Germany, I got my first job as a bartender. And I told the colleagues there, guys, I only want to speak German. Please talk to me only in German. My German was still very rusty, and I was studying in English language, but I was taking the time to learn it on my own. Luckily, my neighbors are all Germans, and I also made this I told them as well, very nice guys, hey, I want to speak only German. And that was how it started for me. I exposed myself to just watching TV shows in German, listening to the radio. So definitely, my understanding of the language was so high in a short time, even though I couldn't speak fluently. But then afterwards, I didn't stop there. I continued to go to church, attend services in German language. It's like every opportunity that I get to practice the language, I use it. And now that's where I'm also coming to the people to say, hey, use the opportunities around you, expose yourself to the language, to the culture, to the people. because that's how you get yourself into it. And then for those who can, take up voluntary activities. There are so many voluntary organizations, or so many organizations, non-profit organizations, that you can actually work within a professional settings in German language. So trust yourself, the little German that you know, and get into those places, because there you're not only building your language skills, but you're also building your professional skills, you're increasing your networking, you're getting deep and deep into the society, and you're understanding what's happening, who knows who, and all this stuff. So, just maybe wrapping up that point, the key things are, yes, you learn through whatever resource, but then put it into practice, you know. And trust me, you could never learn everything. It only gets better every day, every day. And the earlier you start to use it, the better for you. And what I've also come to realize is that most of us, we get scared because we feel like we don't know enough. But then the person that you're talking to doesn't know this, you know, they have no idea how much you know. So you are the one who is always limiting yourself. So go out there, speak the language, make the phone calls, because trust me, the stories that you tell as someone who has a good command of the German language is completely different from the person who does not, you know. So I think those, because again, Stephen, this also is what would help us to do more, because all the opportunities which we are talking about to tap into here, they are primarily in German language. So you need to have good, proficiency of the language, both understanding and also communicating. And guys, it doesn't have to be perfect. I haven't seen anyone that was crucified. Yesterday, I was in an interview because again, I was telling you about the voluntary organizations that I applied for. Because again, I want to keep myself engaged. I don't have a lot of spare time, trust me, but then I know this is valuable and I want to do it. So in the questionnaire that was sent to me, I used, because the timeline I had before I went there was really short. So I used AI to help me to just fill up everything. So when the lady read it and after the conversation and stuff, she was like, haben Sie KI benutzt? And I was like, yeah. She was like, das haben Sie sehr schön gemacht. And then I was like, ja, ich habe das gesprochen, KI hat das für mich dann geschrieben. Like, ja, Sie haben das sehr schön gemacht. That sehr schön gemacht is just an indirect way to just make you feel comfortable, but I really don't care, right? Because anyway, she got the message, I filled the form and everything. My point being, no one will kill you for practicing the language in whatever way that you decide to use it. So just relax and just have a good time, really. Yeah.
Very well, Mike. Thank you so much. First of all, I appreciate those practical insights that you're sharing. And the last point to how we can do more, or where we can do more on that employability aspect, I would say, Mike, I guess you would agree with me, is by leveraging on the power of mentorship, or harnessing the power of mentorship,
Yep.
For me, I think if you look in your network, in your friend circle, first of all, I would have to ask you this question: who is in your circle that has got at least something that you would look forward to achieve, or something that is bigger than what you have? If everyone around me is still doing the same thing and is still struggling, then I think I cannot find the best mentor in that. Yeah, maybe they could be good in some areas, let's say helping me to manage how to go to struggle. But if my job, let's say, is to end up in a senior leadership role in
Yep.
maybe the top 500 companies, then my job is to look at the network that I need to find those people. Finding mentors, of course, is not an easy thing. We are living in, let's say, in a society where it's hard to get to know people. People will need to see you to get to know you. They
Yep.
need a lot of referrals and the proof to know that they can even give you 5 minutes of their time.
Mhm.
Now, the question is, how do I identify those mentors? And what do I say to them when I meet them? And I think the biggest challenge is starting from where we spend our free time, where we go for networking. So
Yep.
for me, the first practical idea is most of us have at least a tool in our hand, which is the phone.
Yep.
We have a
Mhm.
gadget. That gadget connects us to the world. Now, if my goal is to maybe to make it into the next biggest accounting or IT jobs in Berlin or in Munich or in Hamburg,
Yeah.
the question is, where are these top people meeting?
Yeah.
There must be forums, there must be places, there must be workshops, there must be industrial events where these
Yeah.
people meet. So
Mm-hmm.
if I just tap in industrial meetings, let's say accountants or controllers or IT specialists or data analysts in my
Mm-hmm.
city, in the name of the city,
Yeah.
looking for workshops, looking for meetups, looking for congresses happening in this place, I'm sure that I'll be able to find. Now, the question is, what does it require from me? Sometimes there is maybe a membership fee, there is a participation fee, but that's part of the cost I need to make.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then the biggest sacrifice is the time to be there. And when I go to such meetings like this, I always try to, as much as I can, to read who is coming. I read the profiles of the people who are coming. And I look at the people that I admire, people that I'm not able to meet on the street, people
Mm-hmm.
that I will not meet during our grill barbecue festival or summer party. And I'm very intentional. When I go to these meetings, I will make sure either I have my phone, my card, or any QR code of my contacts. Of course, when I go to these people, the first thing I have to know is their profile. What are they doing good?
Yeah.
When I meet a person, like the last time I met, we were at a certain gathering, an education meeting. Of course, this is a person that I've been watching and following and looking at this podcast. The first thing I did, I said, hey, so and so, it's such an amazing opportunity for me to meet you in person. I've been following your podcast and your writings on this topic of international
Mm-hmm.
education. And I so much admire the fact that I'm meeting you in person. Already I'm creating a connection to this person,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
next thing is I am looking at myself leveraging on the knowledge, on the skill that you do have, and I want to learn more about ABCD.
Yeah.
Is it possible for me to connect with you via LinkedIn, via email, so that I can remain in touch with you? Of course, he
Yeah.
said. I thought he's going to say, I'm very busy and that. Immediately he pulled out his phone. He told me, this is my username. Look out to connect with me. We connected immediately. And the thing I did immediately, I wrote a message. This is me. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure. It's been a great pleasure meeting you. And then from there, up to now, we are talking. We're friends. The next thing, I was inviting this person on the podcast, and we're talking. Just
Mm-hmm.
how it works. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
one key example. So maybe your goal is to benchmark someone who is top in your industry, whether it is a finance, whether it is data analysis, whether it is project management. There are people that you're looking at that are inspiring, that are looking for. Maybe you want a mentor. They might not become a mentor for you immediately, but at least being in a proximity to these people
Mm-hmm.
already,
Mm-hmm.
even if it means using them as your reference at some point after talking to them and telling them or asking them if they know someone in that industry who knows someone who is looking for the set of skills that you do have, or
Yeah.
asking them, would you like to look at my CV and see if it meets the industry expectations as a project manager? Alone, their feedback could be so valuable to you. So I
Mm-hmm.
think this is an area we can do more, especially in helping us to be more employable, to do things that we enjoy, or to get promotion or career leverages and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I guess we can talk. There's still many points to cover, but just for the
Yes.
sake of time,
Yeah.
we're gonna run it up here slowly.
Mm.
But I believe for everyone who is watching this right now or later, you get the point. The key thing is focus on your strength and not on all the things which seemingly trouble you.
Mm.
Definitely, there will always be these troubles, these issues.
Mm.
But the fact remains that at the end of the day, you are still the one in control. You decide pretty much a lot of things that happen in your life. That's a fact. Because
Mm.
everything that happens to us in most cases is always a result of the choices that we make and where we spend our time. And the
Mm.
question is, how are you going to spend yours? Probably the first step would be begin to connect with people like Steven mentioned, who you see yourself in where they are today, you imagine your future to be like that and maybe better, but at least that's a good point, a good place to start from. And I genuinely believe that at the end of the day, the best things in life are still free of charge. Trust me, I've had so many of them, I'm still having them. And if you ask other people, they will also tell you the same thing. So
True.
it doesn't really cost a thing. What it costs the most is just organize yourself. That's all I
Simple
can
as
say.
that. It could be
Yeah.
more complicated, right?
It couldn't be more complicated than that, really. You know? Yeah. So
Yeah.
Steven, any final words from you so we can wrap it up for the evening?
Yeah. As we wrap it up, Mike, first of all, thank you so much for that. The point I would like to probably finalize with, like you mentioned, the easier, the greater things, actually, the free ones. The bigger thing come in small packages.
Yeah.
So to me, it's quite simple. Start with what you have. Um, as much as we need to survive, think beyond that, meaning go beyond the usual meeting points that you do, network, get out of your comfort zone, and learn to leverage and collaborate with people beyond your circles. And above all, just don't let anyone look you down and say that you cannot do this, you cannot achieve that. No one has achieved it. There is someone who has done it. Maybe you just don't know them, or that person doesn't know them, but
Yeah.
it is possible. That's all I can end up with.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Great. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching this. Once more, this podcast was brought to you by Opportunity Pulse, a non-profit organization co-owned by Stephen and myself that we are using as a platform to bring Africans together practically. We hold physical workshops, seminars, events in Berlin, and we're also planning to do that across different cities in Germany. You're going to
Yeah.
hear from us soon. Wherever you're watching this from, connect with us, share this video or this podcast with anyone that you think should watch or listen to it, and sign up on Settling to see the platform that we're building, to see that this problem is begin that we are solving this problem already from the start, because it always begins with the information which you have and then how you settle in, and before you can think about thriving. I wish you all a nice weekend, everybody, and we will see you again in 2 weeks time on this show. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you. Cheers.